They laughed and called me invisible at my own family dinner, then told everyone I was just Steph who got lucky, like none of my work was real. But what they didn't know was I had already tracked the missing money, every quiet transfer they tried to bury, and once it crossed into federal territory, I stopped staying quiet and started building a case. So at 6:12 a.m., the knock finally came, and the same people who erased me were standing there, watching agents walk through their doors. And by the end of it, the charges were real, the sentences were real, and the only thing they couldn't rewrite anymore was me. I'm your host, and this is a revenge story about what happens when the person you ignore is the one who sees everything. Chapter 1. The night I was introduced as the help. I was holding a silver tray when my father told a room full of strangers that I did not belong to him. The ballroom at the Grand Crescent Hotel in Pasadena shimmered under warm chandeliers, every surface polished to a quiet glow. Crystal glasses, white linen, low music that made everything feel expensive. I stood in a fitted black uniform with my hair pulled back, moving along the edges like I was part of the furniture. Except I was not. My sister Lillian stood at the center of it all, wrapped in ivory silk, smiling like she had been waiting her whole life for this exact moment. Her hand rested on Christopher Hayes's arm, his posture straight, his expression calm in that practiced way people from old money carried themselves. His parents stood nearby, drawing subtle attention without asking for it. My father raised his glass, and the room fell into silence. He spoke about family, about reputation, about how proud he was of Lillian. His voice was warm, confident, the kind that made people lean in and believe him. Then his eyes found me. For a second, I thought he might say something else, something different. He smiled instead, faint and dismissive, and gestured in my direction. "That one," he said, "she is helping the staff tonight, not really part of the family." The words landed softly, but the reaction did not. A few people laughed, not loud, not cruel on the surface, but enough to settle the meaning. A woman near the front let out a short, amused breath and said something under her voice about knowing one's place. A man beside her smirked without even trying to hide it. I kept moving. I stepped forward and offered drinks, my hand steady, my face neutral. A guest took a glass without looking at me. Another paused just long enough to give me a quick, assessing glance before turning away. I did not react. I had learned early that reactions only gave people something to push against. Silence let things pass through me, even when they did not. Still, something inside me shifted. Not a break, something quieter than that. Something that stopped waiting. Near the bar, a group of Christopher's friends were already a few drinks in, their voices just a little too loud. As I passed, one of them glanced at me, then did a double take. "Hold on," he said, lowering his voice, but not enough. "I know her from somewhere." The guy next to him shook his head. "No, you do not. She works here." "Maybe, but I swear," he insisted, "like a hospital or something." I kept walking. The tray felt heavier than it should have. I adjusted my grip and moved toward the far side of the room, scanning for empty glasses, for anything to keep my pace steady. Movement helped. Thinking did not. That was when I noticed her. Margaret Hayes stood a few steps away, watching me in a way no one else had. Not curious, not dismissive, focused. Someone near her shifted slightly, making room without being asked. It was small, but it said enough. I approached, offering the tray. She reached for a glass but did not take it right away. Her eyes stayed on my face, studying, searching. "Have we met before?" she asked. Her voice was calm, controlled, but there was something underneath it that made my shoulders tighten. I gave her a polite smile. "I do not think so." She held my gaze a second longer than most people would. "That is strange," she said quietly. "You seem familiar." For a moment, I did not look away. Then I angled the tray towards someone beside her, letting the moment break on its own. I moved past her, but I could feel it. Her attention did not follow the room, it followed me. As I circled back, the energy in the room had shifted, subtle but real. Conversations dipped when I passed. Eyes lingered longer than before. She looks like someone. No, that cannot be. Are you sure? The whispers were not meant for me, but they reached me anyway. Across the room, I caught Christopher looking in my direction, just for a second. His expression tightened, like something didn't line up. Lillian touched his arm, pulling his attention back, her smile fixed in place, and whatever he was thinking disappeared behind it. I turned toward a side table, setting down a stack of empty glasses. As I reached for a fresh tray, another server brushed past me too quickly. The edge of his tray clipped mine. A glass tipped. It slipped from my fingers and shattered against the marble floor. The sound cut clean through the room. Music faltered. Conversations stopped. I crouched immediately, gathering the larger pieces before anyone could step closer. My movements were quick, controlled, almost automatic. "You should be more careful," someone muttered nearby, not bothering to lower their voice. "I'm fine," I said, already standing, already moving. But the room was watching now. Not casually, not politely. Something had shifted. When I looked up, Margaret Hayes was closer. She had crossed the distance without drawing attention, now standing only a few steps again. Her expression had changed. The uncertainty was gone. What replaced it was sharper, more certain. She was not looking at me like staff anymore. She was looking at me like she was about to remember something important. "No," she said under her breath, almost to herself. "That does not make sense." I held her gaze for a brief second, then turned away, lifting my tray like nothing had happened. But something had. I could feel it now, steady and unavoidable. For years, they had decided who I was without ever asking. Tonight, someone finally was, and whatever came next was not going to stay quiet. Chapter 2. The Years They Never Saw. The room never really settled after that. It just learned how to pretend again. I kept moving, refilling glasses, clearing plates, slipping in and out of conversations like I belonged there in the smallest possible way. But the looks were different now. People watched longer. They whispered more carefully. Lillian noticed it too. She caught my arm as I passed behind her, her fingers pressing just hard enough to sting. "What are you doing?" she said under her breath. "Working," I answered. Her smile did not move, still fixed for the people around her. "Then act like it," she said, "and stop drawing attention. This is not about you." I pulled my arm free. "It never was," I said quietly. Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp for a second. "Do not forget your place tonight," she added, softer now. "You are here because I allowed it." One of her friends leaned in, pretending not to listen. "Honestly, Lillian," the friend said, "you should have hired someone else. This is awkward." Lillian let out a small laugh. "I tried," she said, "but sometimes you have to work with what you have." Her eyes slid back to me. "Go check the back tables," she added, dismissing me with a flick of her hand. I turned before she could say anything else. Near the far wall, I stopped just long enough to steady my breathing. My fingers tightened around the edge of the tray, grounding myself in something solid. It had always been like this, just smaller. A folding chair at my high school graduation, my name echoing through the auditorium while I searched the crowd for faces that never showed up. I had held the diploma a little too long, like maybe if I waited, they would walk in late. They did not. A mirror in my bedroom on prom night, the house quiet, my phone lighting up with messages from classmates asking where my parents were. I had turned it face down and left alone anyway. An email on my laptop. Residency confirmed. I had stood in the kitchen doorway, waiting for someone to ask what happened. My father had walked past me, talking on the phone about a client, never even looking up. The memory faded, leaving the same familiar weight behind. I picked up the tray again. Nora! The name cut through everything. I turned before I could stop myself. Maya Torres was standing near the entrance, still in scrubs, her jacket half on like she had thrown it over her shoulders on the way out. Her eyes locked onto me, relief flashing across her face for a second before it shifted into something else. Frustration. "What are you doing?" she said, walking straight toward me. "I have been calling you for 20 minutes." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Not here." "Too late," she said. "We have a patient crashing in ICU at St. Gabriel. Dr. Bennett asked for you. He said no one else is getting this right." I felt a few heads turn nearby. Maya noticed it too. Her voice dropped slightly, but the urgency stayed. "They are waiting on your call," she added. "You know what that means." I did. I glanced past her, toward the center of the room, toward Lillian, toward my father. "I'm not coming in tonight," I said. Maya stared at me. "You are the only one who can handle this case," she said. "This is not optional." For a second, I almost let it pull me back. The instinct, the responsibility, the part of me that always showed up. Then I looked around again. "Handle it," I said. "I will be there in the morning." Maya's expression shifted, something between disbelief and disappointment. "This is not like you," she said. "No," I answered, "it is not." She held my gaze a moment longer, then stepped back. "Fine, but if this goes sideways, that's on you." I nodded once. She turned and walked out as quickly as she had come. Behind her, the silence she left behind lingered. A man near the bar leaned closer to his friend. "Did she say ICU?" The other shrugged. "Sounded like it." Across the room, Christopher was watching again. This time he did not hide it. He stepped slightly away from Lillian, his voice low but firm. "Who is she?" he asked, lowering his voice. Lillian's smile tightened. "She works for us," she said. "That's not what I meant," Christopher replied. His eyes stayed on me. "I've seen that kind of call before. People don't get pulled out of parties like that unless they matter." Lillian let out a short breath, like she was already tired of the conversation. "You're reading too much into it," she said. "She likes to make things sound more important than they are." Her eyes slid back to me. "Go check the back tables," she added, dismissing me with a flick of her hand. I turned before she could say anything else. Christopher did not look convinced. "Then why did she not go?" he asked. Lillian hesitated just long enough to be noticeable. "Because she knows better," she said finally. "This is my night." My father stepped in smoothly. "Everything all right here?" he asked. "Of course," Lillian said quickly. Christopher did not answer. I moved past them before it could turn into something else. Margaret Hayes was waiting again. She did not pretend she had not been listening. "St. Gabriel," she said as I approached. I kept my expression neutral. "It is a hospital." She almost smiled. "I know that," she said. "I also know they do not call just anyone." Her eyes searched my face, closer now, more certain. "Someone I care about was treated there a few years ago," she continued. "A complicated case. They said a young doctor handled it when no one else could." My grip on the tray tightened. Margaret tilted her head slightly. "You remind me of her," she said. I shifted my weight, breaking the moment just enough. "There are a lot of doctors in Los Angeles," I said. "Not like that one," she replied quietly. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she leaned in, just slightly. "What was her name?" she murmured to herself, like she was reaching for it. I stepped back before she could get any closer. "Excuse me," I said, moving past her. But I could feel it now. She was close, too close. And if she said it out loud, everything in this room was going to change. Chapter 3. The questions they couldn't ignore. The shift didn't ease, it tightened. By the time I stepped back into the center of the room, people had stopped pretending they weren't watching. Conversations dipped when I passed, then came back in low, uneven waves. It felt like something was about to break, and everyone knew it. "Nora." I turned. Daniel Hayes was closer now, not polite distance anymore. "Wait," he said, stepping into my path. "You're blocking the aisle," I said, shifting the tray. "I'll move when you answer me." His voice stayed calm, but there was weight behind it now. "What do you think you saw?" I asked. I think your sister is lying. That landed. Before I could respond, Claudia's voice cut through. Daniel? She stepped in fast, placing herself between us, her hand pressing lightly against his chest like she could physically stop the conversation. What are you doing? She asked, smiling just enough for anyone watching. Trying to understand why no one's telling me the truth. There is no truth, she said. She works here. That's it. Daniel didn't look at her. That's not what I saw. Claudia exhaled, sharp at this time. You're making this bigger than it is. No, he said. I think you're making it smaller. A few conversations nearby went quiet. Not fully, just enough. Claudia felt it too. I could see it in the way her shoulders tightened. Excuse us, she said. She grabbed my wrist and pulled me away before I could react. We stopped near the hallway again. This time she didn't bother lowering her voice. What is wrong with you? She snapped. I pulled my hand free. Nothing. You're embarrassing me, she said. Do you understand that? I looked at her for a second. You're doing that yourself. Her jaw tightened. You always do this, she said. You show up and make things uncomfortable. I showed up, I said. That's enough for you. Because you don't belong here. There it was. Clean, simple. For a moment, I didn't answer. I used to think that too, I said. She frowned like she didn't get why I would say that. You should still think it, she said. Nothing's changed. Something settled in my chest. Not sharp, just steady. I never asked if it had. She shook her head. I didn't need to. If it mattered, I would have known. I almost smiled at that, not because it was funny. I waited for you to care, longer than I should have. For a second, something flickered across her face. Then it disappeared. This isn't about you, she said again, but it didn't land the same way. It never was. She stepped back, already pulling away. Stay out of the way, she said. Finish your shift and leave. I will. When I walked back into the room, it felt different. Not just curiosity anymore. Doubt. People weren't just watching me now. They were watching everything. A woman near the bar leaned toward her friend. That's not how staff acts. I told you, something's off. Across the room, Daniel hadn't moved. He was still watching me. He walked over again, slower this time. You're not going to keep pretending, he said. I'm not pretending. Then explain it. You wouldn't believe me. Try me. For a second, I almost did. Then I looked past him, at Claudia, at my father. No. His expression shifted. Not anger, something sharper. Why are you protecting them? I'm not. I'm just not doing this here. He studied me for a second, then nodded once. So there is something. I didn't answer. Behind him, the doors opened. Margaret Hayes stepped back into the room. This time, people felt it. Conversations dropped, heads turned. One by one, attention shifted like something moving through water. She walked in calmly, but there was something settled in her now, something decided. My father noticed. Claudia did too. Margaret didn't look at them. She looked at me, and she walked straight toward me like there wasn't another person in the room. People moved without thinking, clearing space for her. When she stopped in front of me, everything tightened. Quieter, heavier. We need to talk, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. No one laughed, no one whispered. Even Daniel stayed still. I felt it then. Not fear. Something closer to being seen. For years, I waited for someone in my family to ask who I was. They never did. Now someone else had, and she wasn't guessing. Margaret held my gaze. I know where I've seen you, she said. The words settled into the room like they belonged there. No one moved. No one spoke. And in that silence, something shifted again. Not just attention, expectation. I could feel it building, quiet but heavy, like the room itself was holding its breath. Because everyone knew, even if they didn't understand why, something was about to be said that wouldn't fit back into place. I didn't step away. I didn't look at Claudia. I didn't look at my father. I just stood there and met Margaret's eyes. knowing there was no smaller version of this anymore, no polite version, no safe version. And when she took a breath, like she was about to say it out loud, I realized the next sentence wasn't just going to expose me, it was going to expose all of them. Chapter 4. The Truth They Never Asked For. Margaret did not speak right away. She let the silence stretch, just long enough for people to lean into it without realizing they were doing it. The room felt suspended, like everyone was waiting for something they could not name yet. "You remind me of someone," she said, her voice calm, almost casual. A few guests shifted closer. No one interrupted. Arthur Langford stepped forward beside her, slower this time, like he was piecing something together as he moved. "I had a surgery in Los Angeles," he said, "a few years ago." Someone near the back murmured recognition. Another voice picked it up. "I remember hearing about that case," a woman said quietly. "Complications, cardiology." Arthur nodded once. "It went bat fast, faster than anyone expected." The room tightened. "There was a moment where no one wanted to take responsibility," he continued, "and then someone did." Margaret glanced at me, then back at the room. "A young doctor," Arthur said, "stepped in, took over." People were listening now, fully. "He saved my life," he said. A pause. Not empty, charged. "Wait," someone whispered. "There was a report about that. A female cardiologist, young, top of her field now." Another voice added, "I think she's in Chicago now. Big hospital." Claudia let out a sharp breath. "This is not relevant," she said quickly. "We're not turning this into a story." Margaret did not look at her. "It already is one," she said. Daniel stepped slightly closer, his attention locked. "Go on," he said. Arthur's gaze returned to me. "I never got her name," he admitted. "Not back then." Margaret tilted her head. "I did," she said. The air shifted again. Claudia moved forward. "Margaret, that is enough." "No," Margaret replied, still calm. "It is not." The delay stretched just a second longer, enough for anticipation to sharpen into something almost uncomfortable. I set the tray down. The sound cut through the room. "I am Dr. Alina Cross," I said. No reaction yet. Then it hit. I was the attending cardiologist on that surgery. Silence broke unevenly. "What?" "No way. That cannot be right." I did not raise my voice. "I am chief of cardiology at St. Aurelius Medical Center," I said. "I have been for 2 years." The words settled with weight. Claudia shook her head immediately. "No, that is not true. She is exaggerating. She always does this." I looked at her, steady. "You could have asked." Her expression tightened. Arthur stepped closer, studying my face. "It is her," he said quietly. "I remember her eyes." Margaret nodded. "I verified it. The records match." Claudia's voice sharpened. "Records can be wrong. People can lie. This is ridiculous." "You introduced her as staff," Daniel said, "because that is what she was doing tonight." "That is not what I asked," Daniel said. The room shifted again, louder now, less controlled. "They let her serve drinks? That is insane. After all that?" Richard Cross finally spoke, his voice tight. "This is being taken out of context." Daniel looked at him. "What context makes this okay?" he asked. Richard did not answer. Daniel exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I thought something felt off. I just didn't think it was this far off." He looked back at Claudia. "You knew who she was." Claudia hesitated, just long enough. "It was not important," she said. That landed worse than anything else. Daniel let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Not important?" he repeated. Around us, people were already stepping back, some pulling out phones, others whispering to each other, the energy shifting from curiosity to judgment. "This is the kind of thing people remember," someone said. "It's already spreading," another replied. Claudia's voice rose, sharper now.
"You're all overreacting," she said. "She is making this bigger than it needs to be." "I didn't say anything," I replied. That stopped her for a second. Daniel looked between us, then shook his head slowly. "This is not about her. This is about you, about how you treat people when you think no one is watching." Claudia's face hardened. "Do not turn this on me." "I am not turning anything," he said. "I am finally seeing it." He glanced around the room, taking in the looks, the whispers, the way people were already forming opinions. "This is the kind of family I don't respect." The words landed hard. Claudia stared at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I can't marry into this." The room shifted again, sharper this time. "You don't mean that." Her voice broke. "I do." People were leaving now, quietly but quickly, like they didn't want to be caught in whatever this was turning into. "This will be talked about," someone said near the door. "For a long time," another voice answered. Richard looked like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Claudia turned back to me, her expression unraveling. "You did this," she said. I shook my head. "No," I said. "You did." She flinched. For a moment, no one moved. The weight of it settled in, heavy and undeniable. I could feel every pair of eyes in the room, every shift in perception, every quiet judgment landing exactly where it belonged. I did not raise my voice. I did not step forward. I just met her gaze. The words were simple. They didn't need anything else, because this time there was no way to ignore them. And as the silence closed in again, thicker now, heavier, I saw it clearly. This was not just a moment. It was a fracture, and nothing about this family was going to hold together the same way after tonight.
Chapter 5. What was left behind. The fallout did not arrive all at once. It settled in, quiet and steady, like something people did not want to name but could not ignore. Within days, things started slipping for the Vale family. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone could point to and call a scandal, but in the kind of slow, controlled distance that mattered more. A development deal stalled. A long-standing client stopped returning calls. A charity gala Claudia had spent months organizing was suddenly postponed, then quietly canceled. No one said why. No one needed to. I heard about it in pieces, a comment in the hallway, a headline that never fully formed, a nurse showing me her phone with a look that was part curiosity, part sympathy. "That was your family, right?" she asked carefully. "I was there," I said. She nodded, like that was enough. The story had already taken on its own shape by then, a version that traveled faster than the truth ever did, but close enough to it that it did not matter. At the hospital, nothing changed. Or maybe everything felt clearer. Dr. Shah caught me between rounds one afternoon. "You handled that situation with more restraint than most people would," he said. "I did not handle it. I just stopped hiding." He studied me for a second, then gave a small nod. "That is usually harder." Maya found me later in the break room. "You know they're calling you that doctor from the party," she said, half amused. "I would prefer they just call me a doctor," I said. She smiled. "That part is not in question." That mattered more than anything else. A week later, Ethan called. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering. "Hey," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "Hey." There was a pause. "I saw everything," he said. "The videos, the comments. I figured." Another pause. "I did not realize how bad it was," he said. "Not just that night, before." I leaned back in my chair. "You were not looking," I said. "I know," he admitted. "That's on me." The honesty surprised me. "I should have asked," he added. I let that sit for a second. "Yeah, you should have." He did not argue. "I want to do better," he said. "Then start small," I told him. "Pay attention." "I will," he said, and for once it sounded real. A few days after that, my father reached out. We met at a restaurant he used to take clients to. Quiet, expensive, controlled. He looked older than I remembered. "What happened that night," he began, "was not how I intended things to go." I almost smiled. It was not about intention. He shifted in his seat. "I did not realize how it looked," he said. "You never do," I replied. He exhaled slowly. "I am trying to understand," he said. "That would be new," I said. He nodded, taking that in. "I'm sorry," he said. The words were there, but they carried something else with them: pride, resistance, a need to still be right in some way. "I believe you think that," I said. He did not push further. For once, he sat with it. My mother called later that week. She spoke quickly, trying to explain, to soften the edges of what had happened. "It was not meant to hurt you," she said. "It did," I answered. "I know," she said. "I just wish you had said something sooner." I closed my eyes for a moment. "I wish you had asked," I said. Silence followed. She did not have anything to offer after that. The Hargrove family approached differently. Margaret invited me to dinner first. No audience, no expectations. Just a table, a few plates, and space to breathe. "You do not need to prove anything here," she said early in the evening. "I know," I replied. Arthur smiled at me like we shared something steady now. "You gave me time," he said. "I do not forget that." "I was doing my job," I answered. "You did more than that," he said. Daniel was quieter at first. He kept a respectful distance, like he was still sorting through everything. "You saw it clearly in the end," I said to him one night as we cleared the table. "I saw enough," he replied. "That was all it took." Over the next few weeks, those dinners became easier, less careful, more real. At the hospital, things stayed consistent. Maya caught me one afternoon after a long shift. "You look lighter," she said. "I'm not carrying as much," I replied. Dr. Shaw passed by us and added, "That tends to happen when you stop waiting for permission." That stayed with me. The noise around the story faded over time. Not completely, but enough. One evening, I stood on the balcony of my apartment in Santa Monica, the ocean stretching out in front of me, steady and indifferent. For years, I thought I needed them to see me, to recognize what I had done, what I had become. I waited for it. I shaped parts of myself around that waiting, and when it never came, I thought that meant I was missing something. Now I understood. Their silence had never defined my worth. It had only revealed their limits. I rested my hands on the railing, letting the air settle around me. I did not feel angry. I did not feel victorious, just clear. For the first time, it felt simple. I knew who I was, and I did not need anyone else to confirm it. If they saw me now, it would be because they chose to, not because I needed them to. The ocean moved in slow, steady rhythms below, unbothered, certain. I stayed there for a while, letting the quiet hold. Then, without forcing it, the question came: have you ever been invisible to the people who were supposed to see you? If this story meant something to you, stay with me, share your thoughts below, and follow along for more stories that might feel a little closer to your own.